Hello guys, as I record this video, swarms of the Ukrainian drones are traveling to the temporarily occupied Crimea to demilitarize it and return back home to Ukraine where it belongs. General Syrskyy, the head of the Ukrainian army, today gave a really long and interesting interview offering an excellent idea. If Russia wanted war, likes this war so much, why don't we move all of the war actions deep inside the Russian territory? We need a tiny bit of your support and more long-range missiles. And today again, I'm very proud to be Ukrainian, and perhaps the most important asset that my country has are the people. Yesterday, you witnessed big protests on the streets of the Ukrainian cities because we did not like this new anti-corruption law that the parliament of Ukraine passed and President Zelenskyy decided to sign. And today, President Zelenskyy decided we need a new law. That is purely because of the influence of the Ukrainian people and I think a couple of the telephone calls from the European Union. Thank you for that too. Let's have a look at all of these very important details on our way to defeat and demilitarize Russia, because that is the only working peace plan. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine. Subscribe and share these videos to demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine. I love it how Ukraine developed drone warfare, and quite often when we talk about our new special military operations inside Russia or on the temporarily occupied territories, we speak about waves of drones, swarms of drones, flocks of drones, but you might have already guessed they never operate in single or just two drones. This is a new warfare, and my dear allies, you also need Ukraine in NATO. So as I record this video, according to the internal military reports, one wave of drones is working after traveling from Odessa to Saki in Crimea, and another group started their trip from the naval drones. That is already beautiful. So we have aerial drones that travel to their military targets from the naval drones. Just imagine that future is already here. Unfortunately, this future is fueled by war, but still, that is an example of innovation. And these drones are traveling to Sevastopol. Unfortunately, Crimea is full of Russian military bases. They keep a lot of weapons there. They use the peninsula as an important logistics hub for Russian troops on the front lines, and our task is to liberate Crimea, first of all, because it's about justice, it's about Ukrainian people, and you know, there are lots of beautiful people, Crimean Tatars, who want to return back to Crimea, who see the potential of this beautiful land as a resort, as an important historical center, and are waiting for it to be liberated. But it is also important for weakening of the Russian army. Right now they have this hub. We don't want them to have it. We want to protect our people. We want to protect our schools, and for that we need to ruin Russian air defense arsenals, Russian logistics in Crimea too. And by the way, many experts agree that it may be quite easy to liberate Crimea in comparison to some other regions. But General Syrskyy has a plan, and I kind of like his plan. Recently, he was interviewed by a number of respected media. He commented on many things, but specifically, he addressed Donald Trump, giving him an idea that if he wants to bring lasting peace, it's much better to negotiate with Russia with the help of long-range missiles. And he demonstrates the success of Kharkiv counteroffensive when last summer Russians wanted to get the region, wanted to get Kharkiv, and they bombed it like crazy. They applied classical for the Russians scorched earth policy. We were allowed finally for a short period of time to use long-range missiles, and we cleared the territory around the region, and we saved a lot of innocent lives because of you. Yes, because that's you who influence the decision makers and they allowed Ukraine to defend itself to the fullest. And if we were allowed to target with long-range missiles legitimate military objects like these construction sites of Russian drones, arsenals of their missiles, just imagine how many innocent lives could have been saved. Please help us subscribe to join the community. We are kind, smart people here, and please share these videos to spread the truth, and it is important. So ATACMS, Taurus missiles, this is something that Ukraine needs. We are working on our own ballistic missiles, long-range missiles, and hopefully we will be able to test them sometime soon, specifically on military objects somewhere in Moscow. There were rumors that Donald Trump even asked Zelensky if we can target St. Petersburg or Moscow. Then they said they did not. But knowing Trump, I think he could have asked something similar, looking for the arguments in this classical way. I think Ukraine is prepared to demilitarize evil targets close to the heart of this evil empire. And here I again agree with General Syrskyy, who said that even this presence of stocks of long-range missiles on the territory of Ukraine without their direct, immediate usage works well as a deterrence. We all know about this nuclear deterrence, when just the knowledge that you possess the weapons limits your enemies a lot. The same with long-range missiles, honestly. Knowing that we can hit back seriously, Russians may stop sending hundreds and hundreds, actually close to 1,000 drones every night on sleeping Ukrainian homes. Please remember about that when talking with those who doubt or spread BS and Russian propaganda messages against Ukrainian people. And here I know that we will have a lot of problems, and trust me, I was very dissatisfied yesterday. You might have seen that in my video with this new law that thousands and I guess millions of Ukrainian people wanted Zelenskyy to veto. Let me clarify very quickly that in Ukraine we are fighting corruption, in contrast to Russia, Belarus, and many countries that remain, and Hungary, by the way, I'm sorry, that remain under this influence. And the Revolution of Dignity, Maidan, was actually greatly because we hated that corruption that was brought together with Yanukovych, his family, and connections to the Russian oligarchy. Because let's be honest, this like center heart of oligarchic system has always been around the Kremlin with Putin, because oligarchs typically live by what? By energy enterprises, oil, gas, electricity, water. And since the Soviet times, after the Soviet Union collapsed, these were people who quickly monopolized these areas, and all was coming from Moscow. That's why they actually wanted pro-Russian parties, pro-Russian deputies to lobby the laws that they want. The Revolution of Dignity was against that, and the result of the Revolution of Dignity, NABU and SAP were created. These are Anti-Corruption Bureau and Anti-Corruption Prosecution Office, and they are not ideal. I'm sure you have a lot of issues and questions to institutions inside your countries. That's very normal, and in a more or less healthy democracy, people discuss that. But people were proud that they were created and they were independent from the judicial branch, from the general prosecutor of Ukraine, to be able to, control him too, checks and balances, the system that you American people have to protect too, with the tendencies coming from the White House. So people were happy we have it. It's an important structure for a European integration of Ukraine, accession of Ukraine. And out of a sudden, we see this law that limits, they did not destroy the institutions, but they limited their independence. And there were reasons, and it's true that there are some traces of FSB people. It's everywhere. You have to control it. It's a wartime. Spies and bad people are everywhere. But the people of Ukraine decided It's okay to fight the infiltrated agents, but why do you limit the independence of these institutions? Why do you do it in such a turbo regime? That's what we didn't like. It's not to cover up some existing corruption causes, but this could give too much power to the people who previously didn't have it above these institutions, and we hated it. And we also realized this can slow down or freeze, if something goes wrong, our EU accession. And Zelensky signed it. That's why I went to bed extremely angry and very perhaps for the first time since the beginning of this war, I felt very dissatisfied and partially shy for my government. And today people went out on protests again. These are peaceful and, what's interesting, very apolitical protests. There are no parties. I hated that Russian propaganda already uses it, and some MAGA deputies say these are protests against Zelensky. No, people were angry that Zelensky signed, but it's not the protest against Zelensky. And sure, it's not the protests that we want to sign agreement with Russia or something. These are the protests against the law that we don't like, that limits the independence of anti-corruption bodies created after the Revolution of Dignity. That is a very sensitive, always triggering aspect inside Ukraine. These protests are a beautiful proof of very active Ukrainian civil society. And I'm actually proud that you saw that. You saw how quickly we react. I was surprised to read in some comments, people thought like, you cannot gather people that quickly. That must be something suspicious, maybe Russia. No, that is a very typical Ukrainian behavior. That is exactly what we did during these revolutions. They were not a coup organized by CIA. Trust me, that's the way Ukrainians govern the country, with the people, And I love it that after this law was passed, after Zelensky signed it, today, seeing this reaction of the people, that we do not tolerate it under any source, we say in Ukraine. People went out, with these beautiful posters, "Don't push the horses." Those of you who watched Usyk, a boxing match, know that's a Ukrainian proverb, like, don't hurry up, don't do stupid things. By the way, we have a limited edition t-shirt in our merch shop, so if you get the vibe, get one. And people went out with these very strong messages, and today, after all of these conversations and a number of telephone calls from countries, a lot of countries were concerned and needed some additional explanation about this law. Thank you, France, thank you, Denmark, thank you, Netherlands, thank you, Germany, thank you, Ursula von der Leyen. Zelensky decided to record a new address where he says that we need a new law. We need a new law that will fully guarantee the independence of these bodies. And they all talked, and now it seems like the problem is solved. But trust me, the civil society of Ukraine will keep an eye on the process until we finally get the law we want. And that is why I am so proud of being Ukrainian. Ukraine is not the president, the generals, the deputies. They are a part of Ukraine. But this miracle of Ukrainian bravery and resilience is our ordinary people. And that is why I am so honored to represent these ordinary Ukrainians. And I'm really grateful for your questions, for your understanding, and you know that I am always honest with you. If there is something I don't like, I speak about that, and millions of Ukrainians too. And we act, because the president of Ukraine, of the United States, is not like the host of the country. They are servants of the people. And we remind them about it when necessary. And you can actually borrow this habit from us. Thank you so much for standing with Ukraine. Let's remain united against this Russian disinformation campaigns that will try to use Ukrainian protests. But I'm sorry, we needed to react to protect the democracy that we actually stand for against the Russian autocracy. And I think it was a right decision, at least at this moment of time. Everything is very dynamic. Check my new channel, Anna Danilchuk, because there is an important video there about, this concept of the rotting or decaying West that Russia tries to push and fails, because, all these Kremlin children somehow live and study in that rotting West. I wonder why. And also follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and Discord. The links you will find in the description of this video. Thank you for buying me coffees. I needed a lot today. I was super angry, but not anymore. Thank you for becoming patrons and sponsors of the channels and helping me film and write more. Soon I hope I will get some more really good updates about my writing. And check the merch shop. Don't push the horses, t-shirt, limited edition, and many more good products that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine. And most importantly, united we stand. Slava Ukraini!